Well, hey everybody, welcome back to TNS Virtual Farms. I know it's been a long time since I've posted anything, and for my loyal subscribers, I want to say thanks. And no, I'm not dead. Yes, I am in good health. All my family, thank God, is in good health. I just, some things happened, and I needed a nice long break from farming sim and from making videos. Um, First thing I want to say to all my subscribers is, first of all, thanks for sticking it out. And what you're seeing here is not part of the Washita Valley series. This is completely different. It's a different pickup. It's a different map. It's a different series, and it's going to be a little bit different from what you're used to. Actually, no, it's going to be a lot different from what you're used to. So what we're going to be doing is halfway between just um, a play along series where we're just going to play the vanilla game, where it's going to kind of be halfway between that and halfway between what you're used to in my Washita Valley series. If this is the first time you're watching one of my videos, you can go back and kind of see what I'm talking about. The Washita Valley series is a very, let's say, hardcore role playing series. I get very in depth in characters, voices, etc. It's very scripted, it's heavily edited, and to be honest with you, it's a ton of work to make that content. And that's part of a reason why I needed a break from it. I did get sick a while back. I got that bug that's going around. You guys all know what I'm talking about. I got that. Thankfully, it was not serious. My symptoms were not serious at all. Um, didn't have a problem recovering. But some other things also happened in my life, in my personal life. I'm married. I've got two kids, and I just realized how much time that series was taken uh, at at that point in my life. And so I decided to kind of step away from it. You know, it was a conscious decision to kind of step away from it for a little while, and and just take a break. And so that's what I've done, and I'm back now, and I'm getting kicked off with this series here. And the series is what I'm going to call it's a ride along. Okay. Now there's a backstory which I'm going to start explaining shortly. I just wanted to make it clear to everybody, especially my subscribers, that this is not the same series that you're used to seeing. There's going to be a lot more gameplay involved in this one and a whole lot less editing. I'm going to try to actually edit as little as possible, and if I make mistakes, you're going to see the mistakes. But I think it's going to be a little more real. I think it's going to be more fun for a whole different set of viewers than are used to watching my videos, and I think I think a lot of my subscribers are still going to be able to get enjoyment out of it, and I'm hoping that it's a whole lot more fun for me to produce and a lot less work for me to produce. Because at the end of the day, I still want to have fun playing farm sim like I have for years now, for going on 10 years now. I've been playing Farming Simulator, and I want to have fun. I want it to be fun, but I also want there to be a little bit of a backstory and a little bit of a history that goes along with my videos and with my game. So with that, I'm here on the Oklahoma 4X map, and I'm gonna explain the backstory. All right, so the backstory is that this is my new farm here. Now, unfortunately, my uncle passed away a few months ago, and this used to be his farm, but he's passed away now, and I was able to work some things out financially and take over at least part of his farm. Now, it took basically every bit of the money and the assets that I had to make that happen, but I was able to make it happen. Now, I couldn't keep all of the land that my uncle had, and I couldn't keep all of the equipment that my uncle had, but I was able to retain enough of it to make it work in the beginning. Now, looking around here, this looks pretty nice. You're thinking, yeah, this is, you kind of hit a home run. This is you did all right for yourself. But what you don't know yet is that a lot of this stuff is pretty rundown. My uncle was a bachelor, never married, no kids, did all the farming himself, and while he was very efficient and productive and successful in his earlier years, he had some health setbacks. He had some mental issues where things just kind of started to go downhill, and for the last several years, things have kind of fallen in disrepair here around the farm. Now, earlier this week, there was a farm, basically a liquidation auction. My uncle owed some money to the bank, like I think all farmers own some money to various banks. And there was a liquidation auction in which most of his, well, actually, I wouldn't say most, a lot of his equipment was sold. A lot of the things just around the farm got sold, like tools and etc. Some of his land got sold. I was able to retain some of it to just enough basically to get started. I worked something out with the bank so that I was able to pay off I was actually able to pay off all of the notes that he had and still keep some of this land. The good news is that I don't have any loans against me at this point. The land I own, which is this plot of land you see here, a couple of fields, you see one over there, another field beyond the tree line here. I own those free and clear. And then across the road over here, we'll go look at here a little bit later. I own those free and clear as well. Altogether, I'm figuring I own it's right around 70 acres. It's not quite, because it's always MOL, more or less. But right around 70 acres. And some of that is cultivated, some of that is the farmyard here you see. Some of it's kind of pasture, kind of scrubby tree land. But all in all, right around 70 acres is what I was able to keep in the end. Now, my dad, he was my uncle on my dad's side. And my dad left the farm at, graduated college. He went off to college, graduated, and he never came back to the farm. My uncle was the one that sort of took over the farm from my grandparents, and so you kind of know the story with that. My dad, to this day, still does not want anything to do with the farm. I am in the same, professional-wise, I'm an engineer as well. My dad's an engineer, and he basically did everything he could do to talk me out of this, but I said, you know what? I always loved the farm. When my grandparents were still alive, I always loved coming back to the farm, riding the tractors, riding the combines. When my uncle took over and my grandparents passed away, my uncle took over. I always enjoyed being on the farm, especially in the early years when my uncle was still in good health, both physically and mentally. And I said, I really want to try to do this. So that's the backstory. That's kind of where I'm at. And as I was saying earlier this week, there was an auction, and quite a few of the pieces of equipment got sold. I did retain some things, and some of the things people just flat didn't bid on. Like they just like the auctioneers literally could not get people to bid on some of the stuff, and that's some of the stuff that you see sitting around here. This hay feeder, like for example, um, these two wagons over here. This wagon here is actually it's like a forage wagon. It's a high lift, a high dump forage wagon. Um, Nobody wanted that. The gravity wagon here, you see, nobody wanted that. I mean, nothing you see equipment wise that I'm going to show you today is in good repair. Like everything is wore out, rode hard, put up wet. It's got a nice big auger here, but again, it's, you know, the flighting's worn in it, the tubes are worn in it. So what I'm basically saying is what you see here is not necessarily, you know, full story. I mean, you got some grain bins over here. They're all old, leaky. Floors are cracked. Auger over there, kind of the same story with the bigger one. It's basically just scrap. There is actually places on the tubes in that auger that are completely worn out. You can see the flighting in the middle of the tube. Basically, I mean, it's junk. You think, oh man, look at this. You got a pretty nice bin here. I mean, it's just one bin, but it's pretty nice. You got an overhead loadout. I mean, this is slick. You get a nice leg. Should be pretty easy for you to expand, you know, in the future. Well, yes, that's true, except the chain in the leg in the elevator you see there, the bucket chain is it's all basically laying in the bottom half of the elevator itself because it broke at the head house up there. Well, I need to turn that off. But yeah, as I was saying, the chain broke at the head house up there. All the buckets are laying, you know, in the tubes, so it's inoperable. And when that happened, from what I understand, my uncle actually sold the big electric motor that was up there on top that runs the whole leg, the whole elevator. So it's basically worthless to me, and it's a nice bin, but you know, as I said, my uncle he started deteriorating in health, and mentally he also started to kind of deteriorate. So everything is just kind of in not a great state. And as I said, I don't have a loan. However, I did liquidate pretty much all of my assets other than my truck to try to make this happen. My 401k from my employer got liquidated, and that $19,746 is basically everything I have to my name. So that's all the money I have to get this first crop in the ground and get it off, so maybe I can have some income. So yeah, we'll see. So as I was saying, you know, most of the equipment, tools, everything's gone. These are basically just empty buildings. I mean, they are buildings, so that's nice, but they're basically just empty. The long shed over there, it's the same. It's just an empty storage shed. There's nothing in there. The only thing that we do have up here on the farm, that's the only piece of equipment that I was able to keep that's operable, you know, that's a you know, engine driven piece of equipment, is this John Deere tractor. And this John Deere tractor, it's a 4430. My uncle had it since new, which is great because I know the history of it. However, I know the history of it. The last couple years, my uncle didn't really do much to maintain it. It's pretty much wore out. It's got decent rubber on it, although the rubber is old. It's got somewhere, I think, in the neighborhood, we'll just climb up here. It's got 11,000 482 hours on it. So, yeah. Now, prior to probably the last couple of years, my uncle actually did maintain his stuff pretty well. I mean, everything was serviced on time, everything, was done on time. So, other than the last couple of years, those 11,000 hours, 11,500 hours basically, um, were, were pretty good. Um, he took pretty good care of it, although it's high houred. They're not, they're just they're not abused hours. Let me put it that way. And with the farming that my uncle did in the past couple of years, he used this tractor. This was his pretty much his primary tractor. It was the only one that ran. So he used it a lot in the past couple of years, but he didn't farm as much in the last couple of years. So probably only about, I don't know, maybe 1,500 to 2,000 of those hours were, kind of what I would call sort of abused hours. So, all right, let's go back and we'll take a look at the machinery row and kind of see what the rest of the equipment that we have is all about. And then we'll go, when we're done that, we'll go across the road over here and we'll take a look and see what we got back there. All right, and I'm going to be switching back and forth between the in-cab mode. I do enjoy the in-cab mode when I'm playing, but I also do enjoy the aerial mode and being able to look around and see the equipment as it's working and see things while I'm driving around. Sometimes cab view is easier, and then sometimes the overhead view is easier. As you guys probably play Farming Simulator, so you know all this. But I will be switching back and forth some. So again, for those of you who are accustomed to my Ouachita Valley series, when I'm in overhead view like this, it's not because I have my drone out. I'm just playing the game. So it may take some of you a little bit of time to get used to that. You may hate it, but I hope you don't hate it. I guess. Okay, so as far as equipment goes, what I was able to keep, and the primary equipment that my uncle has been using the past couple of years since his big tractor broke down, is this equipment here. What we've got here is we've got a chisel plow. It's a small one, and but he can still pull it okay. I'll bet just barely behind the 4430. We got a grain drill here that's in okay condition. It's got some rusty spots in it, especially in the fertilizer hopper. It is only a single disc opener. For those of you who know much about drills, will know what I'm talking about. But it's a single disc opener, which means that it's not a no-till drill. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not a no-till drill, but since it's only a single disc opener and not a double disc opener, you pretty much, like, you can't even seed some wheat into some soft pasture ground. I mean, it's basically, this drill is going to be good for worked, very, very well prepared ground, and that's it. So next up we have this old sprayer, which is very, I don't know. It's not like a sprayer that I've really ever seen before. I don't know the story behind it, other than it was probably pretty cheap, and my uncle bought it within the past couple years, so there's no telling what he was thinking when he bought it, and who sold it to him. So I don't really know much about it. I'm hoping that it works okay. Next, which is we've got a cultivator here, which is actually a pretty nice cultivator. Out of all the equipment he has, this is probably the least wore out, probably the nicest piece of equipment that I was able to keep. It's got a rolling basket on the back, so this ground needs to be chisel plowed for sure, and it needs to have a disc pulled over it. I don't have a disc. I mean, I have a disc, but I don't have a disc, and I'll explain a little bit more about that here in a minute. But yeah, all this ground is going to need to be chisel plowed. It's going to need to be disked. It's going to need to be, have a cultivator, pulled over it, and just kind of firmed up. So basically, all this stuff is it's all going to get used, because I'm going to have to use it to get this ground in shape. Now we got an old 7000 series planter. It's a 6-row planter. It's got max emerge openers on it. So it's not a bad planter. I mean, it's pretty worn, but it's not totally wore out. There's nothing fancy on it. It's ground drive, so it is what it is. And this is just what I've got to work with. Now, on the flip side of that is it's very simple. I was able to find the manuals for this, and for, well, really basically for everything. He was kind of a pack rat, which is bad but good. And I was able to find a lot of the documentation for even when he bought some of this stuff new. So that's good. But we got a 6-row planter. Like I said, it's nothing fancy. It does not have trash cleaners of any kind. So this is not a no-till planter here. So we're not going to be doing any no-till planting with this thing, unfortunately, because that would save me a lot of time trying to get this in the ground this spring. So just like the grain drill over here, the soil is going to have to be very well prepped. It's going to have to be a really nice seed bed for my best chance at getting a good stand of corn. And I'm also going to try to put in some soybeans, some full season soybeans with this. So, and speaking of soybeans, so since I have a single disc opener grain drill over here, and I've got a planter with no trash cleaners, which means no-till. The chances of me being able to get in a double crop soybean crop after wheat anytime soon are pretty much non-existent. I just don't have the equipment right now to be able to do that. So I'm going to put in some full season beans, some corn, and some wheat this spring. I am going to put the wheat in first and hope that it works out. I guess we'll see. Normally here in Oklahoma, we don't plant spring wheat, but it has been done with some success. So we're just going to roll the dice and see what happens. None of my fields are that big, so it's not going to cost me a ton in inputs if it doesn't work out. And if it doesn't work out, maybe I'll be able to put in some kind of summer crop. Yes, we'll see. Now, you're saying to yourself, back when I said I don't have a disc, you're saying to yourself, well, yeah, there's a big John Deere disc right there. There's the disc. And yeah, I do have a disc, and I have a really big, it's not really big, but it's a much larger cultivator as well. The problem is, contrary to what a lot of farm sim players think, the old 4430 is not going to drag that disc. It's going to drag it up to the yard so I can put new tires on it, but that's all it's going to do. If you hook the 4430 or a tractor of that size on a disc like this in real life, you would, you put this thing in the ground and it would park that tractor instantly. I mean, park it. So, and the same goes is for this cultivator here. The 4430 is not going to pull this thing. Now you say, well, how about the case? Well, how about this case 4490 over here that's sitting in the row? Well, the reason why this thing is sitting in the row is because it doesn't run. Well, actually, I take that back. From what I was told, it actually did run. It did run when it was put here. The problem is something with the transmission and drivetrain. If you guys know, if you know much about these case tractors, this is a big 4-wheel drive tractor. Obviously, it's big. It's 4-wheel drive. However, these are a little bit different because there's no articulation joint in the middle of these tractors. So Case was, man, I think about the only American four-wheel drive manufacturer that their four-wheel drives were this way and not articulated. Um, Now, when International Harvester and Case merged, then the big Case International, the big red ones, became articulated because they were just kind of a, I think they were just an International Harvester tractor, sort of, with Case on the side. Um, Not in the beginning, but then after the merger happened and the new series, the next series of four-wheel drives that was put out, they were articulated. Okay, I guess I'm beating a dead horse here. But anyways, so this 4490 here would be fantastic if it operated, because I'd be able to use some of this bigger equipment and get the ground covered a lot faster. But this thing, it's inoperable. Now I did call. There's a pretty good Case Case International dealership here in the area. I called them. I told them kind of what the problem was. There's going to be a mechanic coming out to take a look at this thing sometime this week, because if there's any way possible that I could get this thing going, I would like to. But I know it was parked because of drivetrain issues. At least, well, that's what I'm told. But it did run, is also what I'm told. We'll climb up here. Not sure, I can't remember how many hours is on this thing. So yeah, it looks like there's, well, very well used. There's not over 9,240, almost 48 hours on the thing. And as you can see, it's a pretty basic tractor, nothing real exciting. But whereas the 4430 is like around 110 horsepower, this thing obviously much bigger, much heavier, four-wheel drive, and it's around 210 horsepower, I believe. So yeah, it'd be nice if this thing ran. But so we'll see. So that's kind of the equipment rundown that we're going to be playing with here in the beginning. I did put a lot of thought into the equipment that that I got here for my starting equipment to start the series with. I didn't just kind of do it willy-nilly. I kind of had my story in my head, and that's why I picked the equipment that I did. There is some equipment missing, obviously, because if I'm going to grow, if I'm going to have corn or soybeans out here in this field, and I'm planning on putting some wheat across the road in those two fields, what do you need for that? Well, you need a combine, and I don't have a combine. Part of this $19,000 that I have is going to go towards getting the down payment on a combine. I'm going to have a loan for that. So yeah, that's why I'm going to kind of have to watch my money here in the beginning, and just kind of do things wisely. I'm hoping that I'll be able to get this tractor going this year, but if I can't get it going this year, I don't really have that much ground to cover, and it may have to wait till like next year maybe, because I still have to buy a combine. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of other miscellaneous stuff that I'm going to have to purchase as well, and I'm no doubt there's going to be repair bills, not just from that tractor, but from other equipment as well. So that's that. That's the machinery row. I'm planning on the next few days kind of get some of this stuff drug up by the barns, getting some tires fixed on some things, getting, just seeing like what kind of hydraulic hose repair I'm going to have to do on some of this stuff, and just sort of getting it back in order The first thing is I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be starting with 4430. It needs an oil change. It needs some service done. So that'll be something to kind of get me started. Let's run over here let's run across the road here before I let you guys go, and I will show you the other two fields that I've got. Some of this stuff that you see sitting around is probably gonna go. If nowhere else, it's gonna go to the scrapyard because I need to start cleaning this place up a little bit. This barnyard needs some gravel desperately because there's nothing but mud in it right now. So that's, I at least need to get a little bit in front of, at least one of the barns. So if I got to work on something outside, I'm not rolling around the mud all the time. So this is the other part of the property here, and my uncle actually used to own the whole section here, but what I've ended up with here is just and it's not actually a full section. It's part of a section. But anyways, he used to actually own the 4 square here. There were 4 fields, but what I'm left with here is just this area here, which is kind of 2 meadows. There's one across the trees over there that looks similar to this one here. It's awfully brushy. The grass is just kind of so. So the grass area here is pretty much just gonna stay probably the way it is until probably next year or the year after, until I kind of figure out what I can do with this. So this is another field here. There was corn in this field last year, and there were soybeans in the field over there. Now I own this field here to the left that we're looking at. I also own the field over here that was in soybeans to the right. The area in between these trees, that is mine as well. However, this tree line here, there used to be an old fence in this tree line here. The fence is gone now, but this is basically a dividing line. I own this half of the tree line, and the neighbor, he owns the other half of the tree line. That field over there in front of me, and that field over there in front of me, which the field directly in front of me there, and the field to the left over here, my uncle used to own those, but those had to be liquidated in order for me to be able to pay the bank to be able to keep the field back here, the field over here, and the barnyard and the fields over there. So that's sort of the full story. That is where we're going to be starting with. And like I said, this is going to be a very different series from what my subscribers are used to. If you guys are new to the TNS Virtual Farms channel, welcome. If this looks interesting to you, please subscribe. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. Make sure if you do subscribe, or if you're already a subscriber and this looks exciting to you, hit the bell so you get a notification when a new video comes out, because it just helps me. At the time of the making of this video, I believe I have 225 or 226 subscribers. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for watching. The Ouachita Valley series is not dead. I have no intent of killing it at this point. I just needed a break. I needed to get back to Farming Simulator and having fun and actually playing the game, rather than just using the game to produce content. I hope I didn't break anybody's hearts with this video and with my my explanation of where the Ouachita Valley series is at. But again, welcome to this series. It's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be a lot more fun for me. I know that, and I think that there's gonna be some things that I'm gonna do that that a lot of you are gonna enjoy. That's sort of above and beyond just normal gameplay. I'm not going to go into detail yet of all the things that I'm going to do, but there's going to be some farm management things that I'm going to kind of talk about, and that you guys can actually do as well to sort of to make, as stupid as this is going to sound, to make your farming simulator farming experience more realistic. Because at the end of the day, it is supposed to be a simulator, right? So it is supposed to simulate real farming. So there's going to be some things. There's going to be some management tools that I'm have used for a long time in my offline games, that I'm going to be showing you guys, and I think it's just going to be. I think it's going to be fun. So thanks again, and welcome to Oklahoma 4X Ride Along. See you guys.